Hello everybody, are you ready for another video? I think you are. I'm Pastor Siri. I am a Lutheran pastor, but also a spiritual seeker. Yes, both can be true. In this upcoming video, we're going to talk about masculine and feminine spirituality and what a balanced spirituality might look like. Take a listen. So maybe you've heard this concept about masculine energies and feminine energies. And first I want to say, please don't get overly attached to the term masculine and feminine. Sometimes we can get triggered by that, especially with all the conversation around gender and the boxes that we tend to put people in. And that's actually part of the conversation that I want to have, is this great imbalance that we have had. Oftentimes, it's true that a lot of what we're going to quantify as masculine energies have mostly been attributed to men. And feminine energies have often been attributed to women. And yet, we have both within us. Both are really good, positive tools for us to use as human beings. Both are necessary. But there is a problem when they become imbalanced. And I think we've seen in our world today that there is a huge imbalance. Something's not quite right. So what are these two energies? So another way to look at it is the yin and the yang symbol. Basically, you have a white little fish and a black little fish, and the black has white in it and the white has black in it. And it shows like perfect balance. So we're going to look at these as also an image of what you might consider masculine and feminine imagery. So imagine that you're going outside and the sun is shining like it is today, the sky is blue, and there's a lot of energy that comes from that. Maybe even it's summertime, and so life is happening, it's extremely green, and because the sun is shining, you can see everything in front of you. And so you get to work and you have a schedule and things are ordered and you can check things off of your list and everyone has their role and everything's working together and maybe even there's a flow of command. Okay? So this is all examples of a very masculine energy. And when you encounter a problem, you'll sit back and you'll use your logic and your rationality. And when you want to learn a new skill, you will go to a mentor or a school or get a certification or program. You'll get that external knowledge into your head so that you can do a task and a job. This is great. This is a really, really necessary, positive thing. I myself am a huge schedule person. I have carried a day book, yes, still a spiral bound day book that I can write things down with a pen and cross them off. I've had that since high school, and it has served me well because when I was taking honors classes and AP classes and had all these extracurricular activities, I planned my days out by the hour and how I'd get everything done. And that served me really, really well to have those kinds of skills. And yet our culture has been very, very focused on the masculine. You might say that capitalism has a deeply masculine energy to it, as does the United States and a lot of the Western world, actually. This is where we focus on efficiency, we focus on goals and the bottom line. And yet we have seen what that has created in our planet. By having a hierarchy as well in order where humans are on the top and then everything kind of below us is something we can use and as a resource, basically something that doesn't have a right to its own being. And so the way we've mined the earth and the way that we've mined animals and enslaved animals for our own needs without regard to their quality of life, we've engaged in some practices that have been deeply harmful to our souls, to humanity, to the earth, the whole web of being. And that is because you cannot actually disconnect the web of being into tasks. And as wonderful as this intellect is, that is not the end game. The right logical answer is actually not always the right answer. we need more than just head knowledge. Furthermore, at least I'll speak for myself, coming from a Lutheran Christian background, there has been a huge emphasis on the masculine spirituality in Christianity. And what I mean by that is, at least in Lutheranism, there is a huge emphasis on learning creeds, learning catechism, on basic and memorizing the Bible kinds of things. Our hymns are like 8 verses long with all of this complex, dogmatic, theological stuff. It's very heady, intellectual, and so forth. And my seminary, which I absolutely had a wonderful experience and loved it, was listening to professors teaching from this long lineage of mostly white European male theologians going back in time who were in positions of power and in positions of a hierarchical structure. And the church has often been in that hierarchical structure. People come together to debate and so on and so forth. And again, it's not wrong. It's not bad. But when that structure, when those energies, when that way of doing things is seen as the only way and the superior way, and that feminine energy and feminine ways of doing things, and by default, women, sexuality, animals, bodies, the earth, are dismissed, denigrated, and even demonized, flat out demonized, it creates deep unhealth. Because at our core, we are part of nature, and nature seeks a balance at all times. I live in the Northern Hemisphere, which means we have the 4 seasons, which I love. And so in summer, we will have 15 hours of daylight, which is balanced out in the dark winters of having nary 8.5 hours. So over the course of the entire year, it balances out how much sun and moon we have. When I was a little girl, I lived in Tanzania, which is right along the equator. And there, according to my father, I was never checking the clock as a kid, he said the sun got up at 7, boom, within a minute it was up. None of this slow, beautiful sunrise, it was up. And 7 o'clock, right? 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. 7 p.m., the sun went down and it was dark fast. So there was an equilibrium in that as well. Hot and cold, night and dark. And think about too, in wintertime, not only is it cold and it's dark, but it's like a hibernation happens. Some animals actually hibernate and go to sleep. We have tons of squirrels in our yard and they will fatten up and eat as much as they can. So there's a shift and a change that happens in them in the fall as they prepare for winter. And if we're honest, a lot of people who live in these parts will feel sort of a desire to want to sit back and integrate and relax and work less and do less and just be cozy. And sometimes we feel lazy, we feel bad about these parts of ourselves instead of realizing that we need them. In our own daily lives, we have periods of sleep and periods of work. We have periods of rest and periods of play. I mean, maybe those are actually supposed to be equal, that our sleeping and our laziness should be equal, 12 hours to 12 hours of, not saying we have to work for 12 hours, that's not what I'm saying, but there's activity, there's momentum, there's driving your kids to school, there's working on a project that you really, really like, there's going grocery shopping, there's making food, doing the dishes, doing yard work and work. Maybe we're meant to have much more of a split balance. So let me talk about the feminine energy. So feminine energy is much more like if you go outside at night and you see stars in the sky and maybe there's a beautiful full moon, but no matter what, it is still dark and it's quiet. Many things are asleep. It is a time of rest. It is a time of recovery. It's a time of silence. And in that darkness, not only is there rest, But in that darkness, many things are hidden. And so with feminine imagery, feminine energy, you often have the elements of water and of earth. The earth is nurturing. The earth holds and brings forth life. And it's very firm and strong and fertile. And water moves wherever it is easiest to move. And it'll blend in all over the place. And that's a very different energy from the masculine kind of fire, air, intellectual, task, do. Where the water might spread around and it's more collaboration, nurturing, and egalitarian. Because all animals, all people need rest, all animals, all people need food and need water and need community. And so this can be slower and more patient. And as well with that, moon and night and water have often been associated with intuition, with the inside, with feelings, that which we cannot see, that which we may not even be aware of, but exists. Kind of like a iceberg where you only see the top half. That's the daylight, right? That's the tasks. That's what we did. But there's all this that's underneath the surface that many of us may not be aware of and may not honor. But if we don't, it will crop up in some very, very big ways. It is part of who we are as humans. We're not brains. We're not brains. We have a brain, which can be very useful, but we have a body which has its own knowledge. And we have this subconscious and these feelings, all of which are communicating with us to try to help us navigate this world. And I definitely was someone for a long time who thought feelings were useless because I loved to get stuff done. I was really good at getting stuff done, and I was a great lone wolf. But the older I've gotten, the more I've seen the huge value of learning from going inside of myself and understanding why I have the feelings I do, letting those feelings come out, processing them in a healthy and a good way, which most people in our culture don't know how to do, and also seeing why I believe what I believe, questioning those things. So a feminine spirituality is going to be one that seeks harmony within and without. One that seeks collaboration within and without. It's going to be one that's going deeper beyond what you can just see. And the thing about feminine energy that's so beautiful is you can't prove it, my friends. It's not in a book. If I say that I have a powerful change that's happened within me, you can't quantify that. It just is. So sometimes what happens in our society is that we'll have a problem and we'll try to just logically figure it out. Get a bunch of guys together and just rationally figure it out. And that's wonderful. But every once in a while, we might have to stop and go slow and let time get longer and be patient and intuit and feel. And again, these things are hard to control, and they're hard to delegate, and they're hard to, task orient. And it can feel scary in some ways because it's a little harder to teach. It's a little harder to manage. But beautiful things can happen when people learn how to get in touch with their feminine side. There is a collaborative, nurturing, intuitive aspect that is our birthright. And furthermore, this is one of the reasons I bring this up. Part of Christianity being masculine too is we externalize authority. We externalize authority as something that's out there. Well, it's out there in the Bible. It's out there in my pastor. It's out there in the church structure. And it's very hierarchical too. You've got your pope and your cardinals and your bishops and your pastors and father, mother, all the way down to this little kid. And we've exported so much of our power, control, and authority. And we've also demonized bodies, women, sexuality. The earth is something we have to tame and we have to harness and we have to control because there's such fear of the openness and the wildness of that feminine side. Embracing feminine spirituality would be to realize that actually, no, my thoughts and feelings aren't bad. They might be immature at times, but actually deep down in a core of me is something worthy and intelligent and wise that knows for themselves what is good. And that is going within yourself to learn wisdom and goodness. So the authority is here. And once again, that doesn't play well with patriarchal structures that value masculine energy, because then you can't control when somebody's authority goes internal. And it freaks people out. They're like, well, how do you know if you're using your intuition, you're not, tapping into demons, and how do you know that you could be wrong? There's been bad people who've done bad things in the past. Yeah, working in masculine structures. You've had a lot of dangerous people who have done horrible things on this planet working in masculine structures. So clearly that wasn't the answer. So we have much to be learned from the external world. We always need to have mentors and teachers. And there's many books and courses and things we can learn from the wisdom of the people who've gone before us. But again, it's a balance. We check it with our own intuition and our own knowledge, and we cultivate our own wisdom. And that is why I say I'm a Lutheran pastor and a spiritual seeker, is I'm seeking in here at my own wisdom. And if there's something I've been taught out there that doesn't make sense to hear, I don't need to believe it, and I have the authority. No church, no human being, no creed, no doctrine, no book has any authority over me except me. I'm the decider. I'm the one who decides what I'm doing. And I am perfectly happy to stand before the living God and say that, because guess who taught me that? The living God. And so many women have had that experience where they've grown up being told what to think, what to do, what to be, and they've done it. And then things fell apart, and they maybe left religion, they maybe left church, but they felt this pull toward God, and they sat and formed their own quiet relationship with God and within themselves. And guess what they found? A loving, quiet God who says, you know, and gives permission for us to find our own way in our own journey. Beautiful, beautiful. So regardless of what you are living in, I'm guessing most of you are living in a masculine environment, and we have often embodied some of those traits, especially as women, we've kind of had to. Men have been very discouraged from embodying anything feminine, which is really sad, because we need both to have in our toolbox. I just encourage you to ponder without shame or guilt where you are, and if you reacted to anything I said, just be curious about that. What was coming up for you, and be curious about why that bothered you, and look within a little bit. And in the next video, I am going to share one of my favorite and most beautiful healing modalities, which takes, in my opinion, feminine spirituality in the most gorgeous healing way ever. So watch for that next time. Thanks for watching. As always, you can support me energetically if you liked this video by liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing with someone who you think might really need this message. Until later, bye-bye.